All right, it's 9 a.m. I'm going to call to order the January 13th regular meeting of the Lake County Board of Supervisors. I want to welcome everybody and thank them for being here this morning. And with that, we're going to start with a moment of silence. And we do have one, which I will present. This is for Deborah Jackson. Deborah Christine Jackson was born December 30th, 1977, to James and Nancy Blackeder in Paradise, California. As a young child, Debbie grew up in Kelseyville and graduated from Kelseyville High School. As an adult, Debbie moved back to Paradise, where she met her husband, Darren Jackson, a firefighter, and gave birth to the light of her life, her son, Wyatt. For the past 12 years, Debbie and her family have resided in Lakeport, California. Debbie had a passion for cooking and worked for the Lakeport Unified School District in the Food Services Department, preparing meals for children at Lakeport Elementary. She also enjoyed crafting, candle making, as well as restoring and building furniture. Tragically, Debbie suddenly passed away on December 16th, 2025 at the age of 47, just shy of her 48th birthday. In life, Debbie was always a giver and always the first to step up and help others in need. In her final act on earth, Debbie gave the gift of life to others by being an organ and tissue donor. Thanks to her selflessness, Debbie's gifts became the Christmas miracle for 5 families that were desperately in need. Her heart now beats in a woman in Southern California. Her lungs went to someone in Washington. Her liver went to someone in San Francisco. And her kidneys helped 2 people, one in Southern California and one in New York. Thank you. Thank you. Trevor Mockel, would you lead us in the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're going to move to our item 4, which is consideration of extra items not appearing on the agenda. And we have 3 of those this morning that we need to take up. The first one, I'll read all of the titles out. The first one is going to be, well, we'll do them one at a time. 4.1, which is extra item A, consideration of extra item, and B, approve the award of bid number 2404 to NG Builder Company for the EOC remodel project in the amount of $1,095,000. And at this point, unless there's consensus from the board, I just plan to take up whether or not we're going to put this on as an extra item, and then we would consider the B section later. With that, do we have...
I move.
Hang on a second. Is there anybody from Public Services that wants to make a comment? No. Supervisor Sabatier?
And deeply apologize, opening the item. This was added a little bit later. Unfortunately, I had a lot going on yesterday. That's on me. What's the reason that this has to be, action has to be taken today rather than waiting for, I have not heard that at this moment.
And do we have Director Ewing here that can offer any comments on that? Can we stand by on this one? I can move to the next one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So yes, your board can trail this item and take it up in the to take up the next extra item.
Okay.
That would be 4.2, and then announce that you'd go back to 4.1.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and trail that item and move on to 4.2, which is extra item A, consideration of extra item, and B, consideration of resolution proclaiming the existence of a local emergency due to the 2026 Robin Lane sewer spill in the city of Clear Lake. And again, absent consensus from the board, I'd just be looking to take up whether or not we're going to add this to the agenda at this point. And do we have any staff that wants to make any comments on this before I bring it to the board? Not hearing any. Is there any action from the board at this point?
I move to approve 4.2 as an extra item due to it coming up after the posting of the agenda and action required to be taken prior to the next posting of the agenda.
I second that.
So I have a motion and a second. I'm going to call for a vote. For all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, that passes, and we will take up the B section later in the day. At this point, I'm going to go back to extra item 4.1 and ask Director Ewing to come forward. And Director Ewing just arrived. We had a question from a board member as to why this has to be taken up today as an extra item and can't be considered at the next regular meeting. So if you could offer comments on that.
Good morning, Lars Ewing, Public Services Director. I appreciate you. Well, it is on, but
Yeah, there you go.
okay, thank you.
It'll come up.
All right, thank you. Okay, I appreciate you, your board's consideration of this to discuss the need for the extra item. The contract, the project to renovate the EOC building went out to bid, and in October we opened bids. After that time, we negotiated with the contractor. Pardon me, I ran over, so I'm sorry for my breath. Bottom line, we didn't have the contract signed by the contractor prior to the deadline to get it in front of your board for this agenda. Yesterday, we did get that contract signed, and out of recognition of the next available board meeting being 3 weeks from now, I was very concerned about the delays that would create in the construction schedule. That's the long and the short of it.
Do we have any other questions from board members at this point? Supervisor Sabatier?
Yeah, it says here also about grant funding potential losses. Can you describe what our deadline is for that?
Yeah, the grant has a completion deadline of April, at least in the schedule. Now, certainly with communications with the grant manager, that may be feasible to extend that out. But out of a concern for losing the funding, that's another driver for this the extra item.
And the timeline for the construction?
Is April of this year.
To be done by
Be done,
April?
correct, yes.
Which would be before the deadline, and we're looking at potentially 3 weeks, which would still be before the deadline if that was...
Well, we're talking about construction completion in April. That's what we're trying to expedite that to be complete then. So if we have a 3-week delay in getting the contract approved, getting the contractor out to work, it really compresses the time that we have available to us.
Any other questions from board members? Supervisor Pyska?
Yeah, let's see, what's the motion? Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the extra item as it came up after the posting of the agenda, and there's a need to take immediate action before the next available agenda.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. I'm going
Thank
to
you.
call for a vote.
Mr. Chair, if I may, sorry.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that public comment was taken in
I'm sorry about that.
before.
Do we have any public comment on this item? Not seeing any in the room. Johanna? No hands. So I do have a motion and a second. Or Supervisor Sabatier?
Just because I like to explain myself, I don't feel, yes, there's concerns, but there's not like a hard, like, we're going to lose this, this is going to be a problem. And if I say yes here, then I'm going to have to open the door to anyone else who brings something at the last minute to say, we just want to push this and get things moving forward. I can appreciate that. I want this to be accomplished, but I will not be approving this as an extra item, or else I'm opening up the door for others to come and do the same thing.
And if your board would allow me to just...
Yes, please.
If there was a board meeting next week, if this was a regular schedule, then I think that 1 week would be acceptable. I would not have taken this step, but in consideration of no board meeting next week, no regular board meeting the following week, that's the driver for this. It's the 3 weeks. It's not just 1 week. So.
Yep. And I just have one more comment.
Yes, go ahead, Supervisor.
The reality is that grants and DHS are everything is very difficult right now, and to try and get an extension right now would be very, very difficult and almost impossible. So it's really critical that we maintain our deadlines with this, for this grant.
Okay, any further comment from board? And there was no public comment, so we'll go ahead and call for the vote. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 4-1. And we will take up the actual item later in the day.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. At this point, I'm going to move on to the third extra item, which is a possible request from Public Health for a declaration, for a public health emergency declaration due to the sewer spill in Clear Lake. And we have our public health officer. Would you please come forward and make comments on this?
Yeah, thanks so much to the board for the opportunity to meet with you and explain the reason why I would like to ask for this extra agenda item. Last night, the city of Clear Lake itself declared an emergency as a result of the spill that occurred in one of the neighborhoods and possibly impacting more extensively. What I'd like to be able to do is add an agenda item to explain the need for a public health declaration of emergency.
Okay, thank you. Do we have questions from board members? My question at this point would be, we don't have any paperwork on this. At what time do we expect that paperwork to be in front of us so that we can also have it available for the public, board members to review?
Thanks for that. I'm going to be meeting this morning with our environmental health director, who has the most up-to-date information about this. My understanding as of late last night and this morning is that the spill has been contained for the time being, but there are a number of questions about the impact that the spill has caused and may yet cause. The details will be available as soon as possible this morning.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any members of the public that wish to, or sorry, let's go to supervisor first.
And just, I'm sure you'll be working with staff so that it can get added in as a 4.3 extra item so even the public can have access to it through our agenda.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Seeing nothing further from the board, do we have any members of the public that wish to make comment on just whether or not we're going to approve it to be taken up as an extra item later? Not seeing anyone in the room. Anyone online, Johanna? Not seeing anyone online. I'll go ahead and bring it back to the board for possible action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve this extra item as it came up after the posting of the original posting of this agenda, and action is required before the next posting of an agenda.
Second?
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, thank you. We will take up the item later once we get the paperwork.
Thank you, sir. With your permission, I'd like to get back to the office.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
So I'm going to move on to our item number 5, which is approval of the consent agenda. Do any board members wish to
Yeah.
pull any items from consent?
Yes. The house, I think it was the housing. Let me look.
5.9.
5.9.
Okay. Any further items? Not seeing any. Is there any member of the public that wishes to request any agenda items be pulled? Not seeing any in the room. Anyone online, Johanna? No hands. I'll bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda as proposed with the exception of 5.9.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5.0 or 5-0. And at this point, we'll move on to our timed items, and we'll start with our 902 item, which is public input. This is for any items that are not appearing on today's agenda. We'll start with the chamber. Do we have anybody in the chamber that wishes to make public comment? Yes. Please come forward and state your name, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good morning and Happy New Year's, dear board. My name is Luisa Costa. I'm a proud resident of Lake County. I'm also a proud union representative for SEIU Local 2015. Before the holidays, we came here to express concern about your last best and final offer. We have tried to reach out to the negotiator Margaret Long several times last year, who recently responded in the last couple days. We still have not heard this year about continuing our negotiations. We understand that negotiations represent challenges for all parties involved. However, our members remain deeply frustrated by the lack of progress and the feeling that their contributions have not been adequately recognized. The caregivers we represent provide essential services for the most vulnerable members in our community, and their commitment has a profound impact on countless lives. Our members are seeking a contract that truly reflects their needs and to ensure their wages can meet basic living expenses. Strong wages and sustainable contract terms are critical not only for their well-being, but also for the future care of this county. We have been very clear about the difficulties they face in covering their bills and the importance of securing enough providers to meet the community's growing demands in Lake County. We continue to hope for an offer that reflects mutual respect and acknowledges the hard work of these trusted caregivers. To move this process forward, we ask that your negotiator schedules a meeting with us as soon as possible to discuss and improve the last and best and final proposal. Board, we really welcome any of your thoughts on how we can move forward on this contract and get it over with. We appreciate your support and we thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further persons in the room that wish to comment? Not seeing any, I'll move on to online. Johanna, do we have any? Sterling, we're going to unmute you and you'll have 3 minutes. Please state your name for the record.
Good morning. My name is Sterling Wellman, and I live in Spring Valley. At the last Eastern Town Hall meeting, the Lake County Sheriff was asked a very serious question. What is the evacuation plan for Spring Valley if New Long Valley Road is blocked? There was about a 30-second pause before he answered, because Spring Valley has one way in and one way out. And the sheriff made it very clear that Spring Valley is one of the communities in Lake County in this situation. That alone should concern this board. The sheriff then expressed the county's emergency plan. Plan A is to evacuate Spring Valley within 2 hours if they knew a fire is coming. Plan B is to come through Indian Valley and Chalk Mountain, a backcountry dirt road that fire engines, ambulances, and evacuation traffic cannot realistically use. And Plan C is if a hillside came down and the road is blocked, is to call the National Guard and begin airlifting people out by helicopter. This is not an evacuation plan. This is a disaster scenario. When residents ask if he would support a bridge over Old Long Valley Road for emergency access, the sheriff immediately said yes. And he said this is something the community needs to bring up to the county. The chief of North Shore Fire also supports a bridge. Fire, EMS, and law enforcement all agree Spring Valley needs a second way out. And I have been bringing this to you for over a year. There are more than 1,000 people in Spring Valley. Families, seniors, children, and disabled people all trapped behind a single road in one of the most fire-prone areas in the county. Yet we see millions of dollars spent on sheriff station remodels and a new courthouse facilities. But Public Works has not been directed to pursue a grant funding for basic life-saving infrastructure for an entire community. This is not luxury. This is not optional. This is about whether people live or die when the next fire comes. Public Works applies for state and federal grants all the time. The sheriff supports this, North Shore Fire supports this, EMS supports this community supports this. So today I'm asking the board to stop putting Spring Valley on the back burner, direct Public Works to pursue funding and planning for a bridge over the old Long Valley Road so Spring Valley finally has a second emergency exit. We should not have to wait for a tragedy to prove what we already know. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Johanna, do we have any further? iPhone 11, we're going to unmute you. Please state your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Skyla Lewa, Pillsbury Family Farms. Governments are not defined by what they claim to value, by what they tolerate. Culture is not written in policy manuals. It reveals itself in how power responds when questioned. And what I'm describing today is not abstract. It is not hypothetical. It is visible in public records, internal communications, and lived experience. When I submitted a formal complaint, a complaint that should have been handled neutrally and without pressure, drew the attention of a former supervisor. Rather than allowing that concern to stand on its own, the current chief administrative officer responded by bullying that former supervisor in an email and questioning whether they intended to file the complaint on my behalf. That exchange speaks volumes. It shows a culture where scrutiny is met with intimidation and where process is treated as a threat, and when influence is used to discourage accountability instead of uphold it. This behavior does not arise in a healthy system, but it flourishes only when it is unchecked. The pattern is not isolated. If there is any doubt, I ask that you look at the documented way that Community Development Director Turner has treated my farm. Look at the pattern of conduct, imbalance of power, and the absence of meaningful correction. Then look at the fact that the Sheriff's Department has repeatedly refused to uphold state law, allowing those actions to proceed without intervention. When enforcement is present or absent, it is selectively applied. It sends a clear message. It tells those bad actors inside government who are willing to bend the rules and violate rights that they are safe, and that accountability is unlikely and that their actions are protected. Meanwhile, county staff and members of the public who do attempt to arise concerns, assert civil rights, or challenge misconduct are met with pressure, bullying, and quiet retaliation. The question before this board is not whether these issues exist, because the record speaks for itself. The question is, what kind of government are you allowing to persist? Is it one where the power shields itself, or is it one where law and ethics can be applied evenly? Government shapes the ground that people stand on, and it sets the standard for which families, businesses, and communities are expected to survive. And when the climate becomes hostile, silent, unaccountable, damage spreads far beyond a single department or individual. This culture can be confronted, but it cannot be ignored without consequence. Mulaiha.
Thank you. No more hands. I'm going to go ahead and close public comment and go to our 6.2903 item, which is Pet of the Week.
Hello, I'm Officer Early with Lake County Animal Control, and this here is Ivy. She's about a year old, terrier mix, and she is very sweet. She's a little shy at first, but once she warms up, she's a real love bug. She's not very high energy, and she loves stuffies. Not to tear them apart, but just to have them. She's a very sweet dog, and she does well with other animals as well. If you're interested in meeting her or any other animals, you can come down to 4949 Hubbush Drive here in Lakeport and meet your new next best buddy. Thank you.
What was her name?
Ivy.
Ivy. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in this morning. Do we have any members of the public that wish to comment? Seeing none in the room, anyone online? Thank you.
Good luck, Ivy.
I'm going to move on to our 6.3904 a.m. item, which is new and noteworthy at the library. And we have our library director online.
Yes, thank you for giving me just a few minutes to talk about what's new and noteworthy at the library. This month, I want to highlight the novel Gone Before Goodbye by Reese Witherspoon and Harlan Coben. Harlan Coben is an American writer of mystery novels and thrillers. He has written over 30 novels and won numerous awards. 12 of his novels have been adapted for television. And for this novel, he collaborated with Reese Witherspoon, the acclaimed American actress and producer, who also is a co-founder of Reese's Book Club. Gone Without Goodbye is a thriller featuring Dr. Maggie McCabe, a disgraced combat surgeon who takes a secret, high-paying surgery for an elite client, only to be pulled into a dangerous conspiracy involving the global ultra-rich. Mark Weingarten, writing for the Los Angeles Times, states, "The two authors have delivered a story that pulls the reader deep into a rarefied world where ethics are mere technicalities and the needs of the rich take precedence over petty trivialities like, say, morality. The book's plot mechanics hum along with great pace and verve. With Gone Before Goodbye, the two authors deliver a fun ride into a shadowland where the rich are convinced that money can insulate them from everything, including their own morality, even if they have to murder a few people to get there." You can request this book or other materials through our online library catalog, which has the combined resources of Lake, Sonoma, and Mendocino County library systems. Requesting items is completely free, and items are sent to your local branch for you to pick up. I'm also excited to announce that the Winter Reading Challenge starts this Thursday, January 15th. During the Winter Reading Challenge, you can sign up at the library's website or at any library location to challenge yourself to read more this winter. All ages can sign up with the goal of reading 1,000 pages or 20 books, whichever comes first. When you finish the challenge, you get to be the first to choose and check out a brand new library book and sign your name inside. Funding for these books is provided by the nonprofit Friends of the Lake County Library. To make it more fun for kids, we give you a game card where you can earn stickers and small prizes along the way. For adults, you can earn virtual tickets to a raffle for a gift basket filled with brand new books. The challenge starts this Thursday until the beginning of spring in March, and you can sign up anytime online or at a library branch. As always, you can learn more about our library system at our website at library.lakecountyca.gov or come visit your local library branch in Lakeport, Clear Lake, Middletown, Upper Lake, or on the Bookmobile. Thanks again for listening to what's new and noteworthy at the library.
Thank you for the presentation. Bring it to the board. Supervisor Sabatier.
Yeah, just you said come and visit your local branch. I need to come and visit to see all that happened over at the Lakeport branch. Just wondering if you wanted to speak to that. I know you guys reopened everything.
The construction, yes. So the library is reopened and it's safe to come inside and check out books and visit us and use our public computers and all the things that people are accustomed to doing. The construction is still underway. So what the project was to install fire sprinklers in the ceiling, and those have been installed. We're still waiting for the final steps of construction to be completed so that they can put the ceiling tiles back up. So if you want to come and visit our Lakeport Library and see what's behind the drop ceiling, you can see that sneak peek behind the library there.
But thank you for getting that done and opening it back up. I'm sure people love going back to their library because they get into their routines.
Yes.
Any other comments from the board? Not seeing any, I'll open it up to the public in the room. Not seeing anybody online, Johanna? No hands. We'll go ahead and close that item. Thank you for bringing us the presentation today.
Thank you.
And we're going to move on to our 6.4, 915 item, which is consideration of presentation giving an update on the light detection and ranging LiDAR derivatives available to the public. And Supervisor Pyska, do you want to open that up?
Yes. Well, I'm really excited for this presentation. This has been a project many years in the making, many grants we wrote this into, and the funding sources have come from quite a variety of different groups, from the state, from USGS, from, everyone really understands having this data, which is now statewide, is incredibly important for landowners, public and private, to complete forest health projects and to get our land in a place where it becomes more fire resistant. So I'm just really excited to turn this over to our Chief Climate Resiliency Officer and Chief Wink, and I think there are possibly at least one other guest.
Yes,
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. This is very exciting.
thank you. Good morning, Board. Good morning, Chair. And I want to see if, is he a panelist? Okay, great. So I'm honored to be here today to talk about the amazing GIS work that Lon Sharp, he should also be a panelist, and our IT department has done with our GIS. And so funded by the California Natural Resources Agency, the State Coastal Conservancy, NASA, USGS, Sonoma Water, University of California, San Diego, and Sonoma Ag and Open Space, as well as Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District, Lake County was included in a LiDAR acquisition for the North Coast counties. So there's 9 other counties, and all of us were rolled into a statewide GIS map. So today, I mean, if you read the cover memo, there's a lot of words in there that I don't understand, so I brought people who understand this better than I do, including Mark Tuckman from Tuckman Geospatial. He's online, and of course, Lon Sharp, our GIS specialist in IT. And so these LiDAR-derived data products, which are called derivatives, have now been incorporated into the County of Lakes GIS portal. And so what we are going to do today is Lon is going to show the board and the public how to navigate to the GIS, that particular map that's named LiDAR derivatives. And then Mark and Chief Wink here from CAL FIRE will talk about the usefulness of it. Thank you. Lon, take it away.
Yes, good morning. Let me do a share here. So, okay, so to get to the map, I know that there are links embedded on other county pages, but I'm going to start with the main county website. Community Maps is the link you're going to want to follow. That is going to take you to our main GIS portal, and you'll find a link to the derivatives map there. It won't necessarily always be in this spot. It may shift around, but that's going to take you to the map itself. Now, did you want me to run through how the map works, or did you want to leave that to Mark?
Yeah, if you could just talk about a little bit how it works, and I know maybe caution people that it does take a little bit of time to load because of the massive amount of data that's there.
Yeah, well, you already said that, so, but yes, it's the data sets are very large, and sometimes they do take, depending on your internet speed, they can take a little bit to load up and display. But the map is basically, it's going to open up with a set of map layers you can turn on and off. There are several to overlay over the LiDAR data, but the bulk of the LiDAR data is going to be here in this group, this LiDAR derivatives group. You can click to expand it. We'll just zoom in on, for instance, on Canocti, and you can switch between the various derivatives here. I won't go into too much depth on what each of these are. Honestly, some of them I'm not quite sure what they are. But you can, you've got your basic hill shades, which is what a lot of people like to use, aspect, slope, and such, canopy height. You can, excuse me, expand the map legend here. You can see what you're looking at. If you need more information about any of the layers, click these 3 dots to the right and the details. And again, it's a little bit slow pulling up, and it pulls up a little bit of detail about what that layer is. In addition to simply having the layers to turn on and off, go back to Hillshade here. You've got your basic navigation tools, zoom in and out, take back to that initial home view. If you have your location services turned on, you can find your specific location. There is a search bar for searching by address or parcel number. Down here at the bottom left, you've got where all the tools are. You can switch between the background map, for instance, imagery. There is a swipe tool. Can be a little tricky setting up, but it is handy. We'll let you swipe those, just kind of swipe back and forth so you can, push one layer aside or multiple layers aside. Back to the map layers, you can also see the full legend with the legend tool. There are some basic drawing tools, let you draw if you want to draw a polygon, add points. Same with measuring tools, you can measure line distance, or you want to measure an area. Move on to the next. You can add bookmarks, save bookmarks. Those will actually, if you want to save a specific view, these are actually stored in your browser cache. So you can shut down and come back and those bookmarks will still be there as long as you're on the same machine, of course. This one I particularly like is the elevation profile. Let's go over there somewhere where there's a little bit of elevation change. And you can obviously, you're going to see it more on a steeper grade, but gives you a rough elevation profile of a particular line. Let me go back and clear that out. Printing, the printing tool was a little, when they upgraded it, it doesn't work quite as well as it used to. If you have problems with that, I would suggest either doing a screen capture or just use your browser print. And the last one thing that is kind of handy, you can see down here, you've got your coordinates, latitude, longitude of your cursor. You can also block it in if you want, for instance, it'll add a tick mark, so then you've got your specific coordinates. If you're trying to, if you want to be able to go out and plug that into, say, a handheld GPS unit for field work, you can then get the coordinates for a specific location. And that's pretty much it for these. Barry?
Thank you, Lon. I appreciate it. If you want to stop sharing, I believe Mark has
Yep.
a presentation that he will pull up. We really appreciate it. I really like that line. I didn't know that was there, and then you can see I can see.
Oh, the elevation profile? Yes,
Yeah.
that's very handy.
That's going to be very useful to planning, and when you're looking at, construction.
One thing, just to clarify, to add to that, you can, there is a download option. It will save that elevation profile data to a spreadsheet format, and then you can recreate that graph in, say, Excel.
Great. Thank you. Mark, we did see your there we go. And this is Mark Tuckman Geospatial, whom we have worked with a number of times. He's assisted us in listing the derivatives that not only he has recommended for Lake County, but for all of our surrounding counties. So I'll turn it over to Mark.
Thank you, Terry. And it's nice to be here today. And it's exciting to be involved with Lake County, and we're just a neighbor. We're in Sonoma County, and have always sort of seen that we get all the good data over here, and Lake County hasn't in the past. So we've tried to help shepherd this project forward to see the day when Lake County would have lots of data, and I think we're getting there. So it's very exciting. I'm just going to talk about the data sets that we just created, that Lon just showed in the viewer, what those LiDAR data sets are and what they could be used for. How do you access them? Lon showed one way through the county viewer, and then talk about what's coming and then Chief Wink, after I'm done, will say a few words as well. I just want to point out this image on this slide is an area near Mount Hannah Lodge, and it's showing one of the many derivatives. This is the canopy height model. The canopy height model gives you information about the height of trees. And you can see the actual crowns of the trees on the right-hand side of that image. The yellow crowns are about 150 feet tall, 40 foot greater than 45 meters. So that's what one of the things the LiDAR gives you is a really detailed map or image of tree heights. So what data sets, what's the story with these LiDAR data sets? So we were working with multiple funders, including the Department of Natural Resources, Coastal Conservancy, USGS, to get LiDAR, new LiDAR data for this large region of California, including Lake and Napa counties. Work then was done by the North Coast Partnership, as Terry mentioned, the Coastal San Luis RCD, my company, and another company called NV5 Geospatial to take all of this LiDAR data across this large region in California and create meaningful derivative products. Okay, so the derivative products are broadly divided into topography products and vegetation products. And it's all coming from the LiDAR data. So the topography products are things like really detailed ground and building elevations, and things like slope and aspect. The vegetation products provide answers to questions like, how tall is a tree or a stand of trees, like I showed in that first slide? Where is the dense vegetation on a property? Where are the understory fuels? All of that data, those kind of questions can be answered from these LiDAR derivatives. And on the right-hand side of this slide, I'm going to get my little pointer tool here. You can see how these LiDAR products, these topography and vegetation products, serve lots of uses, from forest management, fuels mapping, prioritizing vegetation projects, to agriculture, planning, engineering, because we get really good, accurate ground elevations and contour data. So lots of applications for the LiDAR data. And here are just some visual examples of these LiDAR products that are now publicly available for Lake County and on the county viewer, and available in other ways, which I'll show in a second. This shows 4 of those many products: the hillshade, slope, what's the steepness of the landscape. The geomorphons in the bottom left is a map, a LiDAR-derived map of topographic position. Are you on a ridge top? Are you in a valley bottom? And then on the bottom right, aspect, what direction does the land face? Some of the forest, the vegetation products, the canopy height model, which I showed in the first slide. How tall are the trees? Where are the trees? Where is the vegetation? Where are the shrubs? Canopy cover, how dense are the trees? How dense is the vegetation? And on the bottom right is what we call ladder fuels, which provides spatial data and allows you to see on the landscape where the dense understory fuels are. The ladder fuels that could carry ground fire up into the canopy of a forest. So how do folks access the data? This is Lon's viewer. Thanks, Lon, for taking all those products and loading them up for public access for the non-GIS user. And then for the GIS user, we make we're providing access to all the Lake County data products via this data sheet, which has links to download all of the data products. And then they're also posted on a website called pacificvegmap.org. So anyone can download these data. Also, from the LiDAR, we've derived 1 foot interval elevation contours. And those contours are available via this clip and email tool where you digitize the polygon that you want contours for, put in your email, and you get a download link to download those 1 foot contours. And the great thing about contours is they provide really accurate elevations for planners, engineers, and farmers, especially in open terrain. This is like one of the most popular data products that we provide because it's got so many uses. Thanks to Gene Forsberg and Cass Green for donating the server for where we host these. This is hosted at the UC Berkeley Geographic Innovation Facility. And what's coming up, I'm going to try to wrap up quickly here. There's a lot of really good data in the pipeline. Some of it's from this initiative called WORK, which stands for Wildfire Ecosystem Resilience and Risk Assessment Initiative. That's a mouthful. It's a partnership between the Air Resources Board, the Natural Resources Agency, and NASA. And it's going to give us these new data sets derived from LiDAR, derived from our investment in LiDAR. And the data sets will include maps of disturbance. So where's there been fire? Where's there been forest management? Where's there been mortality? Building footprints. And this is, again, derived from really fine scale LiDAR and imagery. And most excitedly, tree mortality. And I know Supervisor Pisco will be excited if she hasn't heard about this. The tree mortality data is going to be, kind of game-changing data for all of us. And I'm going to show a slide on that. So all of you who have been frustrated with sort of the existing airborne surveys where somebody literally sticks their head out of a window of an aircraft and attempts to approximate the extent of mortality, those airborne surveys, this is a whole new generation of mortality data based on our new LiDAR and our imagery. It's going to show every tree, and you can see it in the middle part of this slide, every tree and whether that tree is dead, living, or on its way to dying, has partially dead and partially alive. That will give us way better information for identifying those outbreaks of drought, stressed mortality, drought-driven mortality, and mortality from insects or fungal pathogens on the landscape to be able to really accurately and in a timely way identify those outbreaks of mortality. So this is really exciting. This is going to be done in the fall of 2026. And lastly, just a few uses and benefits of that data. It'll provide annual tracking of land cover change and acres affected by fire, disturbance, land conversion, really accurate building footprints, and then, of course, the tree level mapping of mortality, far better than from the aerial surveys that we're all used to using from the Forest Service. Lastly, in 2027, the CDFW will be producing the Lake County's first ever fine scale vegetation map, the best available data set for vegetation type across Lake County, really useful for stand level forest management, fuels management. It's designed for use at the parcel scale. It's not like a regional vegetation map like NLCD or CalVeg or Landfire. It's a really, really detailed, really good vegetation map. That's going to be coming in 2027. It'll be built on top of the LiDAR and the NAPE imagery. And after that's complete, a 5-meter fuel model will be developed from the vegetation map, which is useful for modeling fire behavior, fire spread. And in addition, wildfire hazard and risk data sets will be developed from the fuel model and the fine scale vegetation map. So we're almost there, sort of a long road, but these new data sets, the LiDAR that's out there now, the work data that's coming, the fine scale maps really will be game changing in terms of providing much better tools for planning and prioritizing fuel reduction projects across Lake County. And I'm going to pass it on to Chief Wink and stop sharing here.
Hang on 1 second, please. We have a question from a supervisor.
All right.
Hi, Mark. It's been 4 years we've been working on this, so this is such an exciting day, and I just want to give a big shout out. I know you mentioned Cass Green, and she was really helpful in getting coordinating a lot of grant funding too, and helping us make connections. So you two have been a massive help in this, but I do have a question. You're right, I'm very excited about the tree mortality tracking. But what does the annual tracker mean? Because we know that these data sets were already collected, and so they're sort of a point in time, but what does the annual tracking mean, and how do these sets get updated?
Yeah, great question, Supervisor. The answer is that although the LiDAR data is a single snapshot in time, and there's no programmatic update for the LiDAR, the way that the data will be updated is using NAPE imagery, which is optical imagery, aerial photography, and that's released every 2 years. So that provides a programmatic data set by which these maps can be updated.
And
without
that's from
LiDAR.
the Forest Service?
It's Department of Agriculture. It's the Farm Bureau that provides the NAPE data.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Turn it back to staff. Sorry.
I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, and I did. It's Chief Wink, you're on.
Great, thank you so much. My name is Mike Wink. I'm the Assistant Chief of the Pre-Fire Division of the Sonoma Lake, Napa, Solano, Yolo, Colusa unit. So that's just to kind of remind everybody that we cover 6 counties geographically. I'm very happy to be here today to give a couple comments on this data. I'm going to go back in time for just a minute and let you folks know that in around 2010 or so, Lon Sharp and his team started with the new developments of the Lake County GIS page. I've been using it for over 15 years, and I can tell you now working in 6 counties and ingesting and looking at data, it might be a surprise to some of you to know that Lake County has one of the most user-friendly GIS pages and has certainly been around the longest. When I started looking at other counties' data, everyone has great data now, but starting 15 years ago, Lake County was the leader then, and Lon and his team have really set the bar and continue to make good improvements, and these layers are just the next piece of that. So. And he already talked about some of the tools for acres and distance and parcels that are used. Just an example of Lon and his team. Yesterday we were on a conference call getting ready for today, and they discovered a new process that they're going to be making available through the website and trying to communicate to people, and that's those 1-foot contour level tool that engineers and planners and builders can use that Lon has been doing as requested, and now that'll be an automated tool that any end user can do. So that'll reduce his time on task to provide that information when requested, and that's just another example of every day he's looking for ways to make things better. So you have a great member of your team, and it's been happening since 2010. So as far as this data goes, like Supervisor Pyska said, it's been many years in the making. They scanned it in 2023. It's been working on since 2022. We worked on a regional grant with CAL FIRE to try to purchase some of the LiDAR data because it still has to be interpreted once it gets gathered. So that application, they scanned it in 23, they applied in 24, and Napa and Lake County got a grant in 2025. In the meantime, because of the advocacy of many of the Board of Supervisors in regional venues, but specifically Supervisor Pyska with her county, regional, state, and federal participation in all of these fuels reduction projects, being an advocate, making connections, being on a first name basis with all these folks, we ended up, like they said, in the Coastal Conservancy grant. We're not a coastal county, so it's all because of the advocacy of the supervisors and Supervisor Pyska being on all the panels and traveling trips that take her away from some of these meetings. It's well worth it, and here's one of the examples that we're talking about here today. In my shop, we also administer the grants for all 6 counties, and so this information goes right along with the grants for folks to be able to make data-based decisions. So over 30 years with CAL FIRE now and fire seasons, driving around and seeing things because of your past experience is one thing, but having these data sets to be able to quantify it and to be able to put it down in words and get grants. The Lake County has a lot of active grants through different groups. The Lake County RCD is very active. Clerk, obviously, Terra, the fire districts, the county itself, and our tribal government leadership I interact with on a regular basis, trying to get grants to do fuels reduction projects and to get this LiDAR data. I'd mentioned that there was a grant got to try to interpret some of this data, but because of the efforts regionally and collaboratively, that is already being processed and already being handled in bigger pots of regional interpretation that Tuckman spoke about. So again, this also sets us up for another product called ViberPlanet that I've seen that takes these data sets and starts to run an algorithm to run values at risk, populations at risk, evacuation corridors, strategic fuel reduction priorities, and it runs a computer algorithm that takes in all this data, and that's coming probably in late 26 or 27. That'll be another great tool that's set up for success because of this. Also want to recognize that the creation of the climate officer, Terry here, I interact with her several times a month, and I deal with 6 counties, and the relationships in Lake County are very active and strong and participatory. So we are always talking about these types of things, and it was great to be able to talk about one of the successes here today with Lake County again being ahead of some of their surrounding counties as far as the advocacy got them on the list and got their data sets coming, and then you see in the end of 26 and 27, you have more data coming. So thank you for a few minutes today to highlight all those efforts and the folks who've been doing those. I use Terry and Lon and Supervisor Pyska and all the board of supervisors members. All your comments and all those forums that you have the opportunity to be in, they matter, and it's making a difference. So thank you.
All right, bring it back to the board and Supervisor Pyska.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is what we've been working towards, but this is only a piece of the strategy. So the state has been working toward, and it's now been just released last month, to make sure that every inch of California has this data set, or data sets like this. And Mark, when we met in 2022, you were showing me what Sonoma County looks like at the parcel level. So anyone who is a landowner or a land manager could drill down to their parcel and do this analysis. And then Lon has brilliantly brought all of these derivatives to our county. And this is, like we've said a bunch of times, this is a lot of different funding streams, a lot of different partners, but we're also not done. And so we have put this in so many of our grants. And we're going to continue to, because we need more data. There are more derivatives out there. And so I appreciate you, Chief Wink, for showing how this is going to make it easier for landowners to write successful grants, because now they can really analyze their slope, their terrain, the vegetation, the fuel ladders, everything is there so that they can be more participatory in this process, and also looking forward to the Viber Planet. And I was just wondering, Mark, if you could talk a little bit more, just briefly, about what it looks like going forward. What are the other derivatives and other pathways forward that we're going to continue to seek?
Yeah. Well, I think just getting that mortality data, having that come to fruition will be a big one. And then the really excited to know that this CDFW committed funding to Lake for the fine scale mapping, which was a big deal. And the Chico State is going to do the actual mapping work. So they'll be on the ground in Lake County doing the fine scale mapping work. That gives us really, really good information about, vegetation type. The LiDAR gives us really good information about vegetation structure, how tall, how dense are the trees. The fine scale vegetation map tells us what kind of trees they are. So it kind of gives us the last piece of information in a really detailed way that is going to just add more nuance to the decision making that's on the ground. And then I think once those data sets are in place, we turn our attention to updates. How do we keep everything updated over time? And yeah, I think, and then how do we get all of these tools into the hands of the land managers? Not everybody has GIS. So it's the tools like Lon's created. How do we enhance those tools, expand the reach of those tools, expand the functionality of those tools so that all of the data, the great data sets are easily available to non-GIS users. So I guess that's the quick answer.
Great. And then, this goes beyond fire prevention projects and mitigation projects. We've been, Chair Rasmussen and I have been talking about this with our Cold Creek work, and the Risk Reduction Authority's been talking about this with vegetation management in the creeks for hitch habitat. I mean, this applies to so many of the land use projects across the county. So this is really critical information, and I'm just so excited to be here today showing this off.
Thank you. Anything else, Supervisor Sabatier?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the level of detail that's coming in, especially with the work that has already been happening and will never stop because these green things tend to continue to grow. And I mean, for the work that I just started and with the team that we have over in the city of Clear Lake with the Red Bud Fire Safe Council, this is great information to know. I do have not a concern, not a criticism, but I'm kind of confused about the urban area. So we've labeled certain areas, and it's our community growth boundaries, and it's the cities. They have this gray matter that just says urban area, but I'm seeing that it's pretty like the level of detail for the other types of vegetation models that are out there, agriculture, conifer, desert, hardwood forest. It could be very small boxes, but yet the urban areas are just straight gray. And I feel like when I'm looking around, I'm going to speak specifically about District 2, we have entire swaths of land that are just vegetation with no buildings, but it's still identified as urban. Now, when I go into the derivatives, I can see where all the vegetation is, but yet on the high level, it still shows as urban. Does that change are like,
Yeah.
is that something that will have a little bit better level of specificity? Because I'm thinking of things like, I mean, it's not even close to this, but like Coffee Park, obviously those things burn. If we're just saying it's urban, it almost feels like it's urban, it's fine. The rest is what we want to focus on. But there are some massive amount of trees and a massive amount of vegetation within our urbanized areas because we still are a rural environment and living amongst the vegetation that we would like to keep and maintain around us. So just wondering if there's anything in the future that will change for higher level of specificity, or if we just ignore that and just go straight to the LiDAR derivatives where then it does really show the vegetation and I can see that on a parcel to parcel basis.
Yeah, I think I can address that question, and it's a great question. I think it gets to I'm going to share my screen really quickly here. This slide illustrates, I think, the issue at hand. Just one second. Okay. This is not Lake County, but this is in San Luis Obispo County. It's another county that we're working on. The left image is aerial photography, obviously. The middle image is a new fuel model that we created for Slow County. And the right image is Landfire, which is the sort of the best available fuels data out there. And you can see how much more detailed the middle fuel model, the 5-meter fuel model is. It's based on LiDAR. It's based on high-resolution imagery. The Landfire is 30-meter pixels based on coarser resolution satellite imagery. And the point is that, and to answer your question, is that the last data set that we're going to get in 2027 from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife is what is called the fine scale vegetation map. What you're talking about, Supervisor, is the existing vegetation maps, which are paint a much broader picture of the landscape. They kind of lump a lot of urban areas together, even though those urban areas may have a lot of pockets of vegetation in them. When the fine scale vegetation map comes out in 2027, you're going to see all of those pockets of vegetation in the map that aren't in the map now. It's just a whole new sort of generation of vegetation data that Lake County's never had. And so that's the answer. But it's just going to take a little time to come.
I appreciate that, and I had forgotten about the fine vegetation data, and I appreciate you bringing that back. Thank you.
Supervisor Sabatier, one data set that does exist that just came out in 2025 would be the State Fire Marshal put out the LRA, Local Response Area, Fire Hazard Severity Zone update, which then, because on the Fire Hazard Severity Zones, it used to stop at the city limit boundaries, which we know in your district, within those boundaries is areas of concern that we have all responded to. And the data from 2020 that was released last spring does help represent that. It doesn't give the vegetation layer, but at least it is a recognized tool and layer that now looks into the LRA and helps identify that. So for your Red Bud Fire Safe Council, for example, they'll be able to use that tool to apply for grants and show risk and prioritize efforts in areas that are very high within the city limits in the fire hazard severity zone mapping from the State Fire Marshal's Office. So I'm happy to come to a meeting or meet with you separately on that topic as well. Thank you for bringing that up.
And you hit the nail on the head of what my concern was, is we can get pushback saying, no, you're an urbanized area based on this data, so we're going to prioritize someone else. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Anything further from the board? Not seeing anything. I'll go ahead and open it up to the public. Do we have members seeing someone approaching? State your name and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Tom Lasik. This is, I can't tell you just how excited I am. I actually spent about 15 hours last week pouring through the data just for my own property because I was doing a fire management plan for a fire break and control burns and things like that. And compared to what the data was like last year, because it is now, it's light years ahead. So hats off to Mr. Sharp and Mr. Tuckman for doing such a great job. A couple things just as a, I would consider myself sort of a heavy lay user of maps of the Lake County Parcel Viewer suite of data. That 1 foot contour is going to be super important. It's one thing that I was not able to get to. And it seems to be more of what I would consider a batch job. It's not something that's real time. So good instructions on how to request that, since it seems to be something that has to be sent out, is going to be really important. I couldn't figure it out with other sites that have the same type of service. So having that would be extremely useful. The other thing I would respectfully request is providing easy user-friendly instructions for downloading the data into like KMZ, KML formats that are commonly used for GIS would be super helpful. That said, I mean, it's an A+ product already. So the county has done a great job, and I've seen other counties' GIS information. I almost got a degree in geography. I was just a few credits short. I have maps all over my room when I was a kid. It's a great product. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the room? Not seeing any. Johanna, do we have anyone online? Sterling, we'll unmute you and state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
Yes. My name is Sterling Wellman, and I live in Spring Valley. My question is for CAL FIRE. We've been identified as a high wildfire risk community, and we are a subdivision with only one way in and one way out. Since CAL FIRE just presented the wildfire mitigation webpage, can you please explain what resources on that site are specifically available for communities like Spring Valley that have limited evacuation routes? And can this program help fund secondary access roads or evacuation improvements for high-risk areas like ours? Thank you.
Is that something that you can quickly answer, or if not, we'll have to follow up?
I can do pretty quick. So those tools on there represent guidelines. Currently, current subdivisions that would be built would have a different standard. Obviously, you identified that there is no funding to assist communities. There is identification of communities that don't have a second way out. That is obviously well known. But your question is there funding? No, there's not funding.
Thank you, Sterling. Do we have anyone else online? Donna? Donna, if you can go ahead and state your name, we'll unmute you and you'll have 3 minutes.
Donna Mackwitz, I live in Clear Lake Oaks. And Terry, Supervisors, Pyska, and everyone involved, I love this tool. It's so easy to use. I can't wait to delve in more into it and wait for Viber Planet. It's so exciting to see Schindler Creek and explains so much of how I've always heard of how can Hitch be up there in High Valley Ridge. You see Schindler Creek clearly, you see Burns Valley Creek. I'm so excited. This will be so important for Hitch future, and thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Do we have anyone else online? No more hands, and we're going to go ahead and close this item, and thank you folks for presenting this today to us.
Thank you.
And we're going to get ready to take a quick break, but I do want to remind folks that are commenting that please direct questions to the Board of Supervisors, and then we'll decide, what's going to be answered question-wise. Thank you. We're going to take a 5-minute break.
Johanna has a public comment.
Is
Oh, there we are. Okay, 6.9.
Johanna ready? I'm going to call our meeting back to order from recess at 10:24 a.m. And we're going to call our 6.5 item, and which is 9:30 a.m. item, consideration or presentation on the UC Davis Clear Lake Restoration Project. And while they're coming up to the front here, I just want to quickly remind everybody that we have items stacked up all the way until 2 o'clock every 15 minutes. And we do have to break right at noon for some things that are going on. So just wanted to throw that out. Let's try to stay on our schedule. And with that, I'll turn it over to you folks from UC Davis to start this presentation.
Okay, and thank you very much, and thank you for having us today. So my name is Alex Forrest, and I'm a professor in civil and environmental engineering, and also...
Michael, closer, please.
Oh, sorry, can people hear me better now?
That will move towards you, the whole base, if you need it closer.
All right, perfect. So my name is Alex Forrest, and I'm here from UC Davis. I'm a professor in civil and environmental engineering, and then also the associate director of the Tahoe Environmental Research Center. And I'm here with Steve Camden, who is our project manager, working on the HOS system, so our hypolymnetic oxygenation system, as well as Kara Hollis, our communications specialist, who's been working tirelessly to try to communicate what we're doing within the community and within the county. So if we have, oh, okay. Just to give us a minute here.
I thought you were sharing. Oh, you weren't sharing the slideshow? Whatever window you clicked on and didn't work, you click on the other one.
Or swap. There's usually a swap button.
You can't hit F5 once you do the share to see if it just puts it into slideshow?
I can easily work off these slides too. I'm
good as is.
Yeah, that works. Improvise.
All right. So we're here today to talk. UCD has been involved with a lot of different projects on Clear Lake since a long time, but more recently since 2018. As we all know, it's a beautiful lake and a large cultural resource, but there are challenges, and there are significant challenges that the county faces working on the lake, and we have been working on these and specifically on harmful algal blooms since 2018. These have resulted in fish kills. There's historical contamination issues. So there's no one silver bullet that fits everything. And we have to address these issues and understand the implications along the way. And so in 2018, under the guidance of Cecilia Aguilar Curry, she formed the Blue Ribbon Committee that's been working hard on this. I see some faces that I see regularly at the Blue Ribbon Committees, both the technical meetings as well as the larger meetings, to try to understand the problem and to then try to mitigate and rehabilitate these issues that we're facing. And that's where the point that we've reached now. Next slide, please, John. And so where we started is UC Davis has been part of the Blue Ribbon Committee. At the same time, we've also been doing research on the lake to try to understand the underlying issues. And then we've moved to a point now where we've been making proposals on how we can rehabilitate the lake. This has represented a partnership with Turk, so the Tahoe Environmental Research Center, partnered with the USGS to study the root causes of the water quality in Clear Lake, as well as all the other partners within the watershed that we've been working with. Specifically, we started by looking at the in-lake conditions. So Turk was involved with a monitoring program. We had moorings in all arms of the lake. We were involved with mapping the entire lake, so I was very excited by the LiDAR product. We were talking during the break about trying to get some of the bathymetry data into the portal as well, so I'm very excited to see that happen. And then in partnership with the USGS that was targeting the streams and trying to understand stream loads coming in. Next slide, please. And so really we're trying to look at the lake in its entirety. And starting with the physical conditions. So here we needed the bathymetry to understand the currents and the transport that happens, the water temperature that leads to changes in the chemical condition, understanding the chemistry, so the nutrient loading, where the nutrient's coming from, both from the watershed as well as from the lake itself. And then the biology, so what types of algae are growing, under what conditions, when do they become toxic, what's the toxicity, and trying to look at satellite imaging products as well in conjunction with that to try to understand this overall process. And so what are the findings? Well, phosphorus is key. And so lake bed soils are some of the dominant sources of phosphorus. So what happens, and this is something that's not unique to Clear Lake, but when during the summer you get stratification, so warm water on top, colder water on the bottom, there's a depletion of oxygen in the bottom. When the oxygen gets depleted, if there's available phosphorus, that phosphorus starts getting released into the water. And then when the lake overturns, that phosphorus mixes into the rest of the water and potentially triggers a bloom. So it potentially releases those nutrients and gets recycled into the water. What we found was that about 70% of the phosphorus in the lake every summer is coming from this process of what we refer to as internal loading. And there are other issues as well, particularly with low oxygen conditions, particularly associated with methylmercury. So there's a larger question at hand here of what's the cause of these problems, and then when it overturns, when you get this mixing event, how that phosphorus is released. One of the interesting things, or one of the challenges with Clear Lake is very shallow. So you get this stratification, but then unlike deeper lakes that don't overturn continuously during the summer, Clear Lake mixes every time you get a big wind event. So you can get these episodic wind events that then trigger this release of phosphorus up into the upper water that has basically perfect growth conditions for harmful algal blooms. So what we've proposed, and this is what we're looking at now, is the hypolimnetic oxygenation system. And I realize that is a tongue twister, so HOS for short. So you basically want to prevent this internal loading from happening. And the idea behind it is to inject oxygen into the lake bottom, and so that even though you have this stratification, you're not having this release of phosphorus. And that oxygen will be in the bottom, and you'll be able to turn it on and off during certain time periods. And to be able to do this remotely while observing what's happening to the stratification of the water. So we can track through time, we can track temperature of the water, and then control oxygen to try to regulate how much phosphorus is being released. So the support of the community, the support of the county, we've also been working through the Blue Ribbon Committee as well as through the EPA, who's been very generous with their support of funding for this project. We've targeted the Oaks Arm to run a prototype of this. We are targeting an operation of the system for 3 years. We've been working for the last year with the support of county and others to secure the necessary permits and going through the permitting process, which is a significantly challenging thing because we're working both on land and in water. Designing the system, and one of the challenges as well is understanding the circulation of the lake, so how the water is moving, so that if we inject oxygen, we are understanding where it's going. And the goal is to be operational by this summer with a potential fallback plan in case permits get delayed too far, or in case the design process is taking too long, to fall back one subsequent year. And then once we're operating, sorry, Joanna. So once we're operating, just if you quickly draw your attention to the white lines and blue lines on the Oaks Arm there. The blue line is roughly where we'll be injecting oxygen, sort of across the lake, because there's dominant shore currents moving along the bottom as well as the top. And the idea is to have it move the oxygen around as well as possible. And next slide. So what we want, our aim here is to have a way to monitor oxygen levels in Clear Lake and to avoid HABs and potential fish kills in the Oaks Arm. As a demonstration of this, within this, you're delivering water quality improvements for water districts that are drawing water out, as well as local community and cultural uses around the lake. And then potentially use this to scale up to a larger solution for the entire lake. So really starting with one and then moving up. And so before we jump to questions, I just wanted to say thank you to all the partners and the nations that we've been working with, county, CNRA, USGS, and everyone else that's been involved in the work we've done for almost the last 10 years, but not quite yet. So, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from board members at this point? Wait till after.
I have a couple.
Supervisor Owen.
The pins that are dropped on 2 slides back from where you were, there was a bunch of little pins. Are those where some of them are going to be set up? It has OA1, OA4, real time.
So sorry,
It's where the it has the blue lines going into the arm.
I just don't have the map in front of me. Give me 1 minute.
Right there.
Yes. So those are observation buoys. Observation buoys. And what we're trying to do is monitor the efficiency of the system.
Perfect.
And so that's why we've distributed them along the lake to see how far putting oxygen there gets to the other ends of that arm.
Perfect. Okay.
And,
thank you.
And that's in partnership with the USGS as well. And in fact, they're out sampling as we speak at those locations. So they're collecting nutrient data that we will couple with an oxygen observation system as well.
Thank you. Supervisor Sabatier.
Yeah, thank you for coming and presenting about this. Appreciate what AB 707 has done to kind of bring this about, and especially the funding that we were kind of scared was not going to be available to us that was made available this past budget year. So this is good that this is still moving forward. Looking forward to the summer. There seems to be multiple projects that will become active at the same time. I apologize if I didn't hear this, but you mentioned that you have enough funding for 3 years. What happens after 3 years? Let's say it does help. Do we say this helps and then we just go away? Is there a way to continue this, or is it going to be on the backs of the county to figure out how to continue this? But what happens at the end of 3 years, especially if it shows such great results?
Do you want me to front that one, or?
I'll take it.
All right.
We have we're expecting a CEQA exemption because the project is a science project of limited duration, which means that our scope includes removing the system, which we really don't want to do. So we're seeking a partner to hand it off and to try to set that up ahead of time so that legally we can hand it off and the system can be continued later. It's not part of our scope to do that, but all of us involved hope that we can set that up with your help and probably the water district's help, because it's on their land and they would probably be the operator.
And off the top of your head, because I didn't see any dollar signs necessarily other than the $5 million for the total project, what would be the annual cost to continue to run such an operation?
I don't have a solid number. After we go to bid for this first year, we'll have that. Also, one of the outputs from the project will be determining how much oxygen it takes, which will determine how much it'll cost. But probably in the neighborhood of $500,000 to $600,000.
Okay.
And
So
that's an annual cost. I guess it's about 6 to 8 weeks when the system would be operating.
right, during the height of when we anticipate these things to turn. Obviously, phosphorus, nitrogen, the nutrient load, that's a major conversation about Clear Lake. Our soils are already fairly rich in that, the volcanic soils that we have in the surrounding area, but we also have other issues that create these things. And so you were mentioning the nutrient load, internal loads that are there. Are you able to differentiate like natural phosphorus and nitrogen load versus additional man-made additional nutrients coming in? And I'll get to my full point afterwards, but just wondering, can you differentiate when you're looking inside the lake as to what we're dealing with?
So the short answer is yes, to a degree. So the work that we did, partnership with USGS developed a model of nutrient loading from the from the watershed. So we were able to partition out the amount coming in from streams, and they actually did a very nice job of dividing it up via streams, so Scotts and Middle Creek, and knowing how much load was coming in from each of those. The internal load, we can't differentiate how much of that internal load was put in the last 50 years versus the last 5,000 years. We just know that it's there. And we also have a fairly good idea of sedimentation rates. So basically, over time, the sediment gets capped, or the soil gets capped with sediment that's accumulating on top of it. So if you've removed the nutrients from the new sediment that's coming in, then you're slowly eliminating the problem as it gets buried. Right. But so it's not, this fixes the internal loading problem, but we also have to work at eliminating the external loading problem at the same time.
Right, which I'm sure you're well aware, because I know we've had conversations between Middle Creek and Blue Ribbon Committee. That's an important project to reduce the external load, and any source coming into the lake, the cleaner the source, the less likely you're going to need to eventually continue cleaning the lake in perpetuity. So it'd be nice to get our sources cleaned up. So one of the reasons I'm asking the question, and it's something that I'm hoping that maybe the Blue Ribbon Committee could have a conversation about this, is, and granted it's a weird topic to bring up because of the weekend's unfortunate disaster that we're dealing with, but we have a lot of, and our previous public works director told me that the people who live on the shores are called land rimmers, so let's just call it land rimmers, that still have septic tanks. And there's a vast population that still utilize septic tanks, probably installed pre-1980s. That's when we saw the last buildup of housing in those areas, a major buildup at least. So that's 40-year-old potential, if not older. And what comes out of a septic tank? Phosphorus and nitrogen. So if there's a way for the Blue Ribbon Committee to help us to get all of those land rimmers connected to an expansion of our sewer system, if there's ways that we can all work together, because to me, again, the source is where we need to clear things up, because we can try to do all this oxygenation, or we can do all the LG Sonics, or we could do all the other stuff that's available, but the fact is we still have the problem of what's creating this situation in the lake. And so we'd love to see if Blue Ribbon can have that conversation, or if you and I can have that conversation, but I think it's an important conversation that we need to find a solution to, because the longer we wait, the more those septic tanks become older, and then more likely to fail and become problems for our lake.
Yes, I'd be happy to have that conversation. And I would, and I'm testing my memory here from the report from the USGS, I'm not sure, most of the loading came from Middle Creek, I believe.
About 70%.
No, 70% was internal, and then of the remaining 30%, I think it was about 70% was then middle, and then you can differentiate.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what percentage was septic or not, but certainly drilling down into the error of or the uncertainty in these measurements would give at least a bounds of the unknown sources, which certainly is worthy of a conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything further from the board at this point? Not seeing any. I'll open up to the public, and I'll start with online this time, and we do have one. And we have Sterling. Go ahead and unmute, state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, my name is Sterling, and I am with Bruno on this. There's a lot of questions. 70% of the phosphorus is coming from our sediment. So I did look into the EPA cleanup at Sulphur Bank, and after they're able to do the Superfund there, it's also talk about dredging the lake. So we're going to be spending over $5 million to aerate the lake, and we're going to have to keep spending money to keep it aerated. So why aren't we spending money on the environmental dredges that they use in Alaska, at the Great Lakes, all around the country to clean up sediment that do these problems? I mean, if we're going to be spending this kind of money and trying to make a solution, instead of putting, a Band-Aid on something that needs stitches, let's look into maybe dredging the lake and getting rid of that, the contaminants. Yes, I know the methylene mercury, but there is environmental dredges that can get the stuff out to where it doesn't aerate it through the water. Because once we start doing the aeration, there could be changes in the chemistry, which could release even more phosphorus, which feeds the algae, and also turn the mercury into methyl mercury, which is the most dangerous for people. So those are my concerns. I'm also with Bruno. The septics is a huge thing. Runoffs from wineries is a huge thing. So if we're going to try to fix the problem, I think maybe those might be a little bit easier suggestions. And if we're going to be spending over $5 billion, let's spend $5 million to fix the problem, not just put a Band-Aid on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sterling. Johanna, any further online? No. Anyone in the room that wishes to comment? Not seeing any. I'll bring it back to the board for any final comments, and we have Supervisor Crandall.
Yeah, appreciate some of the comments here, and I appreciate you bringing this forward. I know that when I was on the Blue Ribbon Committee and we talked about this, it was almost like a bittersweet thing for me, because on one hand it's in my district and it's something that people can see that's happening. But one of the things that I was worried about is the fact that it's kind of like a pilot. So like I said, 3 years. And in talking with some other folks that used to work in water resources, it seems that this project would basically make the lake dependent on it. And if we can't sustain the costs afterwards, then we're just kind of back to normal. And I mean, yes, if it works, it gives UC Davis the opportunity to say, hey, it worked, and then take that. But then we're left with the bag trying to figure out how to keep it going. So I had issues with that when I was on Blue Ribbon, and I accentuated that. But again, it passed, and so we're at where we're at. Hopefully we could figure out, some sort of plan to keep it sustainable once it and if it's abandoned. So I just wanted to make sure that folks knew that was my stance on it. But I'm glad it's happening. So either way.
Thank you, Supervisor. Anything further? We have Supervisor Sabatier.
Yeah, just thought I'd at least, based on the public comment, I think we have to do both. I think we have to take care of the current status of the lake in the sense that we can't allow to have these fish kills and these HABs to continuously go on. But we also have to deal with the real reason that this is happening, which is really we got to clear the source of where all these nutrients are coming from in the first place. So I think it's going to be a balancing act, because if we only start attacking the source, it's going to take maybe decades to be able to clear this entire lake. It is a huge lake, and there's a lot of nutrients that have been accumulating over the past 500 to 2 million years. So we can't just be patient to fix the lake. We are going to have to do a balancing act of how it is that we attack this. And so I hope the project works. I hope that we're able to continue it if it works and find ways. But we shouldn't be ignoring that tomorrow we want to see something different, not a decade from now, not 20 years from now. And so it's going to be a balancing act. So I appreciate the fact that, again, the Blue Ribbon Committee has been created, that there's some funding available to make these projects happen. I want to take full advantage, learn the best that we can, and also stand on the shoulders of UC Davis's past studies. I know I've seen a giant thick book from 1994 when you studied the lake. So this is not your first time here. And we're continuing evolving in our understanding of what it is that we need to do. So,
agreed.
Just wanted to clarify.
And Supervisor Owen.
Yeah, I know in the Blue Ribbon Committee, I know that we're looking at several options, trying them out this year. And I know I had mentioned it'd be nice to be able to track, to kind of compare and see what really works here the best in this environment. So I think the others are going to be spaced out. I'm not sure where they are. There's the LG Sonic, and then there's the filtration. I can't remember what it was called, where they filter the water, filter it through, and catch the algae and take it out.
Harvester.
Harvester, that was it. Okay. And then I can't remember the other two, but it's kind of an exciting time to see what really does work here.
It's a very exciting time, and I would. What we're trying to quantify is scalability.
Mm-hmm.
Is how do we scale to address the problem of the entire lake?
Mm-hmm.
And any of these technologies or approaches, we need to look at the scalability, and we also need, if I can propose a recommendation to the supervisors, of a common monitoring strategy, so that we're really evaluating these techniques equally. And this is something that's come up in conversation with BRC and various partners, and we are happy to partner with anybody that's willing to talk about a monitoring strategy. And we have created a monitoring strategy built on a program that we designed back in the 90s and continued in 2018, and we're happy to continue to look at that for new techniques.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, it's exciting, and I'm just hoping that it really works on checking out what is working.
Agreed.
Thank you, Supervisor Kramer.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more thing with the LG Sonic. We were talking about trying to hit the Clear Lake Oaks arm as well, but we knew this was coming, so we are wanting to at least make sure we have the opportunity to look at everything regardless. And so we didn't want to try to do the LG Sonic and hypolimnetic, and then we're like, oh, which one was it?
Yep.
So
Keep them all.
yeah.
Thank you, Supervisor. Not seeing anything further, I'm going to thank you for presenting this to us today, and we look forward to continued updates and seeing how this rolls out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for the great questions.
And next, I'm going to call our 6.6 item, 9:45 a.m. item, sitting as the Lake County Air Quality Management District Board of Directors, consideration of air toxics hotspots report for 2024 presentation and discussion. And with that, we have our Air Quality District Director and staff here, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Good morning still. I was getting concerned that it might be afternoon. I'm Doug Gerhardt. I'm the Air Pollution Control Officer with the Lake County Air Quality Management District, and I have brought one of our new engineers, Nathan King, who's joined us this last year and did extensive work on this report for us through the year, and
Welcome.
learned a lot about every facility in the county by working on this. So
Thank you.
So he's here as my backup and the technical expert on this, on the data itself. So to start, I will try and keep this fairly short because I know you have a busy day. But this is the hotspots report, which is basically it's a calculation of risk prioritization for carcinogenic and non-carcinogenic emissions and impacts in the community. And what it's called prioritizing. So it's not quite modeling. It's like it's an estimation through calculation of risk. There are a lot of assumptions that are made with this first step, which is used to develop this report. And that includes, the wind direction always going to the receptor and, specific things that relate to that. So there's much more detailed work that will happen on some of these that we have discovered in this report for this year. So with that, real quickly, the Hotspots Information and Assessment Act was came into place in 1987, required by the state of California. It's the Right to Know Act. And a lot of things have been added through the years, and just in the last recent years, the risk prioritization guidelines have been updated with the state of California and CAPCOA, the California Air Pollution Control Officers Association, coordinating with OEHA and others to do this. And also diesel engines have been incorporated now. So the diesel generators are incorporated into this risk assessment, where in previous versions they were not. So with that, a lot of things have changed. We used to have pretty much no sources that were in the above 1. We only had a few that were in the 1 to 10 range for risk, and now we have I believe it's 9 that are in the high risk category, and 1 that is right on the border. And these are basically diesel engines. 8 of the 9 are diesel engines, and 1 of them is a boiler, a diesel boiler. So, and the primary risk that we're running into is the non-carcinogenic risk. So the non-cancer risk, it's the toxics themselves, not the carcinogenic part of the risk, which is in prior years, carcinogenic, that was the issue that we dealt with. Now it's the acute and chronic non-carcinogenic. So the quick summary of those facilities, as you see in the table, Appendix 2, the top 9 facilities, we have Lake County Special Districts are quite a few of those. The County of Lake, City of Lakeport, and Pacific Bell, AT&T, and all of them are generators except for the county's boiler at the the courthouse boiler. So, with that, this report is basically just an informational item to make the public aware, and the report is available, of course, on Granicus. It's available on our website and at our office as well. So it has been sent out to both cities, City of Lakeport, City of Clear Lake, this board, public health officer, all as required by law. So with that, I will go forward.
Turn it back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Turn it back to you.
At this point, do we have any questions from supervisors? And we'll start with Supervisor Sabatier.
So now that we have this, what is the next steps that Air District does to reduce it? So I have just randomly decided to start adding up the carcinogen levels that you have. I still have the page number 2, which is mostly stuff that's below maybe an average of 2. But then as we get to the top, it starts hitting the double digits. And then the one at the very, very top, which is Southeast Treatment Plant Pump Station number 1, is like 4 times what the next highest level is. So very concerned about those types of numbers showing up, and just kind of curious, what is the process from here, and what is your threshold that you're trying to bring them to, and how do you do that?
Okay. The standard is to bring them below 10. Our threshold that was adopted back in '87 is anything over 20 in a million. It's either they have to take immediate action or get below 20, do retrofits or something, quickly in order to get back below 20, and a risk reduction plan from 20 to 10 to get them down under 10 as quickly as possible. So the one facility, the special districts, that one we're going to prioritize. Now that's why I brought up, this is not a full-fledged model. This is a prioritization, which assumes that the airflow goes directly into the nearest receptor at all times, that the engine's running, and which we know doesn't happen. So they can do a health risk assessment, which is the full modeling, which takes into account wind direction, wind speed, emissions rise, all those things that happen. There's a good chance that risk will end up being much lower. Probably not below 10, but it'll probably be my best estimate would be it would be below 20. So it would be within that, doing a risk reduction plan. So they're still going to need to do something. That is an old Tier 0 engine. It's 350 horsepower or something like that, or 600 horsepower. So it is a very large engine, and it's a 1997 engine. So it's going to need some work to get it below that threshold. So there's things that can happen, and we'll be working with special districts to get that resolved. One of the immediate things they could do is if they have a different engine, like a Tier 4 engine, they could swap that engine and move this Tier 0 engine to a much more remote location where they don't have impacts. There's processes to do that, so there are some things that we could do to assist with at least reducing risk and also preventing them from having to spend hundreds of thousands more on engines that currently exist and run. So Tier 0s, of course, are, they are the oldest and dirtiest. They do need to be phased out eventually, but we know that does take time. So
I appreciate that. Just a quick follow-up, 2 questions. What is your timeline to go from kind of an estimate to a true measurement? And what, once you get to the true measurement, because right now it says 45.15, and I'm very specifically speaking about pump station number 1, right. Surrounded by a senior center, surrounded by some houses, surrounded by a brand new low-income apartment complex. At what point do you alert the neighbors, and is that a process that you do as well?
That is a process that we do. There's different regulations on how communities are notified. This specific report is notified through the cities, so that's why this one has legal requirements on how people are notified. But yes, we will be contacting and working to get those notifications out to the neighbors and to the senior center and the closest proximity receptors.
As far as timeline?
What's that?
As far as timeline, yeah.
Timeline, that will kind of depend on the working with special districts, because our part of it is to ensure that the next step is taken. Now, the special districts has the option to do a health risk assessment, so they can hire a consultant to do that work and to do that more detailed analysis, or they can take steps to reduce the risk immediately, knowing that engine is old and it's very large. So it kind of depends on what their situation is as to whether they have, say, another 600 horsepower Tier 4 engine that they could swap it out with. They could do that immediately and get that risk down. But if they don't have that and they have to budget for it and stuff, then we might look at the health risk assessment to figure out what is the more refined risk level, so we know really what the impact is on those the nearby residents. So yeah, short term, we will be working on that one very quickly. So
thank you.
Supervisor Owen?
Do we have a monitor in the areas of, say, the housing projects and the senior center to see how much it's dissipated in that distance? Do we have a monitor in that area?
No, we don't.
Okay.
So monitoring, a monitoring station is about a $500,000 per station expenditure. So we do have a lot of the low-cost purple air samplers for particulate, and we do have a lot of those around the county that we've provided through different programs.
Okay, and what number of those do we have approximately of the, because I've seen that there's so much data. I mean, there's, 30 pages of data.
Right.
So I was just wondering, do we own those, or is it a mobile unit that goes out and samples?
The purple air samplers, they are low-cost sensors that just plug in somewhere that has Wi-Fi, and they're several $100s. So
we have a lot.
Cheap. Yeah, we do have a lot spread around, but they only last a couple of years at the most, and so you have to keep replacing them. So we've done that with the schools and most public facilities that are interested. We've been providing those as much as possible as we get the approval for people who want them. So we'll be continuing as soon as we can to continue those. But
I was just surprised at the amount of data that was on here in the number of locations.
We have over 600 sources, permitted facilities, and we have to rank every single one of those. So there's a lot more data than is in the report too. So
now I have one more question. I know that Sonoma County, I believe, stopped paying for the monitoring up at the geysers. Was that right, into 2025?
They are working, they're still part of the program. They are working toward phasing out of, the Northern Sonoma Air District is working on phasing out of some of the responsibilities that they've been doing for years. So we are working on dealing with that. That's a whole separate issue that we're working on.
I just noticed in your documents that it stated that we can recover those fees from the entity that we're monitoring. And so I wasn't sure if they were stepping down, if we needed to go forward and ask for the companies to provide the.
At this moment, no. Our fee schedule, we have these types of costs are built into the fees that we charge now. If there are additional things that we are required to do eventually for more detailed reports, or we have to do the full health risk assessments or whatever that are actual physical costs, those are the costs that we can bill back to the source.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Not seeing anyone else. Go ahead, Supervisor.
Yeah,
Scott.
just a final comment. So I've added together all the estimated carcinogen levels for all of the points that are on here, other than everything that's above 5, which there's only 5 of them that are above 5. And that's a total of 52.11. The highest one is 45.15, which is just 7 points below the total of the entirety of the list. And 3 out of those 5 happen to be in the city of Clear Lake from the Southeast Treatment Plant facilities. I just needed to make that public and make that be mentioned, and that this is a priority for an impoverished area that is subjected to potentially high levels of carcinogens, that we move quickly on assessing this and dealing with this.
Yeah, that's definitely agreed. So
We'll go ahead and open it up to the public. Do we have anyone in the room? Not seeing any. Do we have anyone online, Johanna? No hands. I'll bring it back to the board. It looks like we have a recommended action. It says to.
I move that we accept the air toxic hotspot report for 2024.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 5-0. Thank you for the presentation today.
Great.
Thank you.
And we're going to move on to our 6.7 item, 10:05 item, which is a public hearing, consideration of draft resolution adopting the Lake County Climate Adaptation Plan. And we have our Community Development Director and staff coming up. And I will go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you. We also have our Chief Climate Resiliency Officer, Terry Logston, joining us, as well as our 2 PlaceWorks representatives that will be made panelists shortly. Excellent. Johanna's already on it. I will turn this over to Deputy Administrator Shannon Walker-Smith. Thank you. Oh, I'm Maria Turner, Community Development Director. Thanks.
Good morning, Board. We are pleased today to bring you what we hope is the adoption of the Climate Adaptation Plan. Just as a recap, we were before your board a few weeks ago in a study session gathering kind of final input. But as a recap, we've been working on this project 2 years. We started it in conjunction with the general plan update, but it's been on a slightly different timeline because of APGP funding, which is a grant that we worked with the Office of Climate Resiliency, RRA, and RCD collaboratively over the last 2 years. And that grant is ending at the end of this month. So we are here hoping that we can adopt this plan we've been working very hard on. We did extensive community engagement to get to the final draft, and including a public review period of the draft in which we got feedback, and the draft before you today has that feedback included. I am going to hand it over to Jacqueline for her presentation, which I'm told we're going to shorten up a little bit, try to get you guys a little bit back on track.
Never gonna happen.
Thanks, Shannon. I'm just going to share my screen really quickly. And before I get started, can everyone see my screen? Okay,
Yes, you're
I'm seeing
good.
now. It's perfect. So thank you, Shannon, and good morning, supervisors. I will be shortening this presentation, but here's the overall overview of what I'll be covering. So the climate adaptation plan and its components, a summary of community engagement activities conducted for the plan development process. I'll provide an overview of the actual contents of the adaptation plan and then recommended next steps. Based on the staff report in the agenda packet, staff are requesting that your board adopt the resolution adopting the Lake County Climate Adaptation Plan. So this project is being was led by county staff through a partnership with the Community Development Department, the Office of Climate Resilience, the cities of Clear Lake and Lakeport, and the Resource Conservation District. And our team, my name is Jacqueline Protzman-Rohr with PlaceWorks. I was the project manager for this plan, and I'm joined today by Tammy Seal, principal in charge on our team as well. So to start off with a little bit of background refresher, this effort began with the establishment of the Community Risk Reduction Authority in 2018, then the formation of the Lake County Office of Climate Resiliency in 2022. The Community Risk Reduction Authority, in coordination with the Office of Climate Resilience, adopted the Pillars of Landscape Resilience in 2023. Later that same year, the county, in partnership with the Resource Conservation District and the two cities, were awarded the California Adaptation Planning Grant for the Equitable Climate Safe Lake Project. And then in 2024, the project team began developing the climate vulnerability analysis and evacuation study and the adaptation plan concurrent with the Lake County 2050 General Plan Update. And the project team held several community engagement events between August and November of this past year to get feedback on both the vulnerability analysis and input on the adaptation plan itself. So the goal of the adaptation plan is to develop a roadmap for building climate resilience across both the unincorporated and incorporated areas of Lake County. This process identified key climate hazards and the most vulnerable communities, natural systems, and built assets. During the plan development process, the project team aimed to integrate with existing county plans, programs, and initiatives wherever possible, including framing the plan based on the Pillars of Landscape Resilience. The Climate Adaptation Plan provides practical and feasible solutions to reduce climate risks, considering existing resources, gaps, and capacity constraints, with clear pathways for implementation. So this plan was developed based on the four-step process outlined in the California Adaptation Planning Guide. The first phase included the project team initiating and defining the scope of the vulnerability analysis. Phase 2 focused on assessing vulnerability or the degree to which populations and community assets will be affected by climate change hazards. Phase 3 focused on the adaptation framework and developing strategies and actions for those pillars. And it was at this phase that we held those study sessions for several, for you all and several other groups. And the next phase after adoption will be phase 4, focused on implementation, where funding will be secured, implementation monitored, and the plan may be adjusted over time. So this plan is intended to be a living document that supports other plans and programs and integrates with several of those to do just that. The county general plan will use the climate vulnerability analysis to inform long-term climate resilience policies and programs in the health and safety element. The community wildfire protection plan and multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan can act as implementation tools to implement the adaptation plan. With the adaptation plan's long-term strategies and those other plans' near-term hazard reduction projects. The capital improvement plan can also act as an implementation tool. with the climate vulnerability analysis and strategies in the plan informing infrastructure planning projects for resilience. And then the CAP can also provide a long-term framework for implementing drought preparedness and ecosystem resilience strategies in conjunction with the Drought Resilience Plan and the goals of the Blue Ribbon Committee for the rehabilitation of Clear Lake. I'll quickly go over the vulnerability analysis. According to the California Adaptation Planning Guide, which is the primary guidance document for these types of analyses in the state, a vulnerability analysis is an assessment of how a changing climate may harm a community and which elements are most vulnerable to its effects. As shown on this slide, we used a 4-step process for evaluating vulnerabilities. The first included identifying hazards. Step 2 was analyzing the potential impacts of those hazards. Step 3 was evaluating adaptive capacity, so the ability of populations or community assets to prepare for, respond to these hazards using existing resources. And then we brought all of those components together to assess overall vulnerability. The vulnerability analysis evaluated how 91 different population groups and community assets across both unincorporated county and the 2 cities were vulnerable to 8 different climate change hazards. The project team evaluated a comprehensive set of climate-related hazards ranging from agriculture and forestry pests and diseases to extreme heat, flooding, and wildfire. And all of the hazards on this slide were included. As for key findings, wildfire and smoke create the most vulnerabilities across all sectors. The most vulnerable populations include people of color and immigrant communities, financially constrained households, those with chronic illnesses and disabilities, older adults, people with high outdoor exposure, such as unhoused persons or outdoor workers, and persons in tribal communities. For the built environment, we found that the most vulnerable infrastructure and services were energy and communication, homes, especially older and manufactured homes, transportation infrastructure, including state highways and local roads, agriculture as an economic driver, and outdoor recreation and tourism as economic drivers. So we took the results of the vulnerability analysis and integrated them with the pillars of landscape resilience, which I will very briefly go over. So these were adopted in 2023, and it's based on the Tahoe Central Sierra Initiative, and with feedback from local tribes in Lake County, the images for the pillars were adapted to better reflect Lake County. This framework recognizes the interdependence of ecological and social systems and provides metrics for measuring progress towards ecosystem and community resilience. There are 10 pillars in total representing desired landscape outcomes. All of them are listed on this slide, and they range from air quality to economic diversity to fire adaptive communities and water security. Throughout this process, as Shannon was mentioning, we did host and attend several community engagement events, which were essential in shaping the adaptation plan strategies and actions. The first set of engagement activities for the adaptation plan integrated with Lake County 2050. A countywide survey was open in 2024, which received 718 responses. On the climate adaptation side, we asked community members about their hazards of most concern, how informed residents are about emergency preparedness, and community members how they feel about evacuation processes. In coordination with the general plan team, the adaptation plan project team attended 2 general plan advisory committee meetings in spring and summer 2024, the first of which provided an introduction to the plan, and the second of which reviewed key issues identified through other engagement processes. Following the GPAC meetings, the project team attended 3 general plan interested party meetings covering the topics of environmental justice, Spanish-speaking community members, and agriculture. During both the vulnerability analysis and adaptation plan development, we engaged with several tribes, local tribes, including the Big Valley Band of Pomo Indians, Indian Colony of Pomo Indians of Sulphur Bank Rancheria, Abematolel Pomo of Upper Lake, Koi Nation of Northern California, Robinson Rancheria of Pomo Indians of California, and Middletown Rancheria of Pomo Indians of California. Our outreach included the formal SB 18 tribal consultation process, where we reached out to the required tribes on the Native American Heritage Commission list. And between February 2024 and January 2025 is when this consultation occurred. We did receive several responses and consulted directly with several tribes in Lake County. It was identified that wildfires, drought, flooding, and pest outbreaks threaten access to traditional gathering areas, medicinal plants, and ceremonial resources. Smoke and heat hazards affect both tribal members working in agriculture and the broader community. The importance of existing prescribed and cultural burning programs, and that there are existing housing challenges, particularly for younger tribal members who face limited options and aging housing stock. We held an additional tribal review meeting prior to the public review period in October, where tribes emphasized the importance of integrating traditional ecological knowledge and cultural informed land stewardship practices into climate adaptation. During the public review of the climate vulnerability analysis and the development of the adaptation plan, we also held a series of adaptation-specific engagement activities shown on this slide. A survey was conducted between August and September of 2025, asking community members for their feedback on the vulnerability analysis findings, community resources and barriers, and ideas for building resilience. In September 2025, we held several interested party and agency meetings, including a meeting with city and county departments, CBOs, agriculture representatives, business groups, and environmental groups. These meetings were topic-focused discussions, learning about existing programs, gaps, barriers, and potential adaptation strategies. We also held a town hall for the Risk Reduction Authority, which included a discussion of existing programs and resources for community resilience. We found that funding and communication are primary barriers, and that there is strong community support for climate adaptation overall. And then the last set of engagement activities included study sessions from October to November. We attended municipal advisory committee meetings throughout the county, the GPACs and LAPACs meeting. We also presented to the Lake County Planning Commission and your Board of Supervisors, the Lakeport City Council, and the Clear Lake City Council. Common concerns included obtaining funding and staffing for implementing all of the actions in the plan, how the CAP will integrate with other city and county plans, water quality in Clear Lake, wildfire impacts to workers, and co-management of adaptation strategies with local tribes. So the plan itself covers, again, the unincorporated areas of Lake County along with the cities, and is organized by the pillars of landscape resilience. The plan contains background sections summarizing the vulnerability analysis and local knowledge and lived experiences from community engagement across the county. And the resilience strategies and actions identify feasible solutions and provide multiple benefits. The project team also recognizes the great work that is already happening across the cities and counties, some of which we heard earlier in this meeting today, and therefore highlights existing partnerships and programs under each pillar in the plan. So for the strategy framework, they're organized by goal, strategy, and action. The goals are broad outcomes or end states describing desired future conditions. The strategies are policies, programs, and approaches to achieving the goal, and the actions are the implementation steps for each strategy. Each action contains a bit more detailed information for implementation, such as responsible and supporting agencies, timeframe for implementation, general cost estimates, and potential funding sources. So the adaptation plan does have one goal per pillar, which we did present at the study sessions. So I won't go into these in detail, but the goals are based on the descriptions of the pillars of landscape resilience for each of the 10 pillars. And these are the second set of the 10 total goals in the plan. And what has not been presented to you yet is that each goal in the plan has 2 to 4 strategies, and these are the strategy topics that I'll go over. So for air quality, we have wildfire smoke protection, also wildfire smoke response programs, and air quality protocol integration into public operations and services. Under biodiversity conservation, these include habitat connectivity and interagency coordination, comprehensive invasive species management, and aquatic habitat protection and restoration. For carbon sequestration, natural carbon sequestration management and coordination, carbon smart agriculture and grassland practices, and considerations for planning and development. For economic diversity, strategies include climate resilient agriculture and small businesses, sustainable outdoor recreation, support for vulnerable businesses, and tribal economic sovereignty. Under fire adaptive communities, strategies include multicultural outreach and education, fire resilient housing, community scale resilience, and resilient infrastructure in isolated high-risk communities. For fire dynamics, which is slightly different than fire adaptive communities, strategies include landscape scale prescribed fire and fuel reduction, and fuel reduction in high-use recreation and visitor areas. For forest resilience, tribal knowledge integration and partnerships, forest health and pest management, and sustainable timber products and recreation economy. Under social and cultural well-being, strategies include culturally tailored communication, inclusive adaptation, public health resilience, and inclusive leadership and community co-governance. For water security, strategies include water quality monitoring and improvement, water supply infrastructure and emergency coordination, and water conservation and drought resilience for vulnerable populations. For wetland integrity, existing wetland programs that are already underway, and nature-based solutions for flood control and stormwater management. So each strategy contains several actions with additional details for implementation. I will not be going over all of the dozens of actions in the plan itself, but the actions do fall into 5 different categories to ensure that resilience is integrated into county plans, operations, infrastructure projects, and coordination activities. These 5 types include programmatic, which aim to expand or create new programs, activities, initiatives. Plans and regulations, to develop or revise policies, plans, regulations, and guidelines. Capital improvement and infrastructure projects, which are to address physical and functional deficiencies. Education, outreach, and coordination. And evaluation, to improve feedback, input, and data, or conduct further or new analyses. And for next steps. So again, it is county staff's recommendation that the Board of Supervisors adopt the resolution adopting the Lake County Climate Adaptation Plan. And further next steps, because this plan was developed in partnership with the City of Lakeport and the City of Clear Lake, the project team will also be attending the Clear Lake City Council hearing on January 15th, this Thursday, and then the Lakeport City Council hearing next Tuesday on January 20th. With that does conclude our presentation. I appreciate your time, and county staff and us on the project team are available for any questions.
Additionally, if I might add one last piece of information, the climate adaptation plan has been a priority for the county for a number of years. The task has been housed in the local hazard mitigation plan. And so I just wanted to extend appreciation to the Office of Climate Resiliency. Terry, when she came on board, found funding and convinced me that we should leverage the Lake County 2050 process to also accomplish this goal. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further at this point? Okay, I'll bring it to the board for any questions to staff. And we have Supervisor Sabatier.
Yeah, I appreciate that we accomplished a task that we're mandated to do. We don't really have a choice. Anything past, I think it was 2018 or 2015, that you update your general plan, you have to have a cap attached to it. So I think that's feather in the cap. We're done. This is what we needed to do. But I just have to, I guess, get a little bit on my soapbox. I don't understand the adaptation in the sense that we're not moving on in the fact that climate is changing, but we want to save everything that's been a relic of the past. So we want to save the native plants. We want, like, those things are going to evolve into a different type of landscape. And so I struggle with some of the things that are in here because it doesn't make any sense to me. Things are changing, but we still want to hold on to the past. We need to better protect, and some of those things are in there. I don't see enough on the, and please talk to me if it's on there and I'm just missing it. I don't see enough on flooding. I am very concerned about flooding. We are not ready for flooding. Our storm drainage system, our way of moving water in certain ways is just lackluster. And I know we're talking about heat, and I know it mentions flooding as a category, but I don't see many action items related to flooding. And I think that is something that we should be very concerned about, because it does speak to it, and I'm glad that it does, that we are, the modeling is weird. Like, we think we're going to get like 10 inches more of rain. Like, I don't know how they got that. But anyways, we're supposed to get more rain, but we know we're going to get more rain in an intense way, not more rain slowly spread out evenly throughout our rainy season. And so I'm just wondering, am I missing the action items that are here that are related to what the plan is and how we're going to incorporate on how to handle this massive flooding that we are already dealing with and will continue to deal with in a more exacerbated way? Please.
I know there are some actions on stormwater management, which Jacqueline could probably give you the exact reference to those. In addition, Jacqueline, could you say how flooding will also be addressed in health and safety or any other general plan elements that are upcoming?
Yes. So flooding is one of the main, or one of several topics in the general plan health and safety element. So the findings that we had from the climate vulnerability analysis have been integrated into the draft documents for the general plan update. So there are very specific, discrete policies and programs on flooding in the health and safety element. And some of the more immediate actions are actually also in the most recent update to the hazard mitigation plan, the multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan. And the climate adaptation plan aims to build from those documents instead of overlapping with what those already include. So there are not many flooding specific actions in the draft adaptation plan, because it is a hazard that is covered in at least 2, probably more county plans.
Okay. And then, again, sorry for the random soapbox. I just wish at the beginning, yes, there are vulnerable populations, but really when it comes to climate issues, it's the haves versus the have-nots, period. If you have the resources, you're going to be able to protect yourself. If you don't have the resources, you're not going to be able to protect yourself. And there's people that we're identifying here who could be in either bucket, and I don't think that it matters. I think what matters is we should be helping everybody that does not have access to the resources, because that's the vulnerable population. So, I mean, we have elderly people who are retired CEOs from major companies who have access to resources, and then we have retired folks who have absolutely nothing in their names that are struggling to live. And so, to me, just putting it in those simpler terms, this is who we should be helping, I think just makes it easier for everybody to be able to read this and understand it and know who we're actually helping.
Any further from supervisors? Not seeing any. I'm going to go ahead and open up to the public. Do we have anyone in the room who wishes to comment? Yes, please come forward. State your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Supervisors. Margot Kambara. I offer the following observations and suggestions on 3 topics concerning the Climate Adaptation Plan. I shared these comments at last week's Planning Commission meeting, and I appreciate Supervisor Sabatier's concern voiced today about flooding. First topic, flooding. Recent extreme rainstorms brought the return of perennial flooding to Lake County. For example, parts of Scotts Valley. I respectfully suggest that the Climate Adaptation Plan section on flooding be revised to be less generic in its actions and include lessons learned from recent flooding. Board of Supervisors Chair and District 4 Supervisor Rasmussen went to Scotts Valley last week to view the flooding situation. Last Monday, a Scotts Valley resident informed me that the locking or unlocking of gates managed by Lake County Water Resources Department may have contributed to flooding. A lesson learned could be to build robust procedural documentation and training regarding water management and flood control as a means to minimize the loss of institutional memory and the turnover of experienced staff. Second topic, greater resiliency and groundwater security. The CAP prompts proactive water security measures. South County and High Valley in District 3 are no strangers in wells going dry. Lake County's Big Valley groundwater basin is subject to state monitoring. Lake County Board of Supervisors Chair Rasmussen commented a few months ago that if the county's groundwater is not managed well, the state can step in again. It is in Lake County's best interest to manage its resources well, especially groundwater. The following suggestions may get us to groundwater security and sustainability. First, promote smart and sustainable use of water for ag and development. Second, promote conservation, drought management, preparation of drought, and use of technology to conserve water. 3, review discretionary use permit applications for smart and sustainable use of water. Revise county ordinances and regulations to make permittees accountable for water usage estimates. B, aligning with these suggestions is the Planning Commissioner's interest in reviewing annual reports for permitted projects for compliance with conditions of use. Finally, third topic, accountability, good management, and maximum effectiveness. For maximum effectiveness, a CAP needs to identify metrics for goals, due dates, and responsible individual for the goal. This action promotes accountability and reflects good management. Without these measures, CAP is an attractive document with limited utility. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else in the room? Not seeing any. Johanna, do we have anyone online? Betsy, we're going to unmute you. Go ahead and state your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Betsy Kahn, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I'd like to just point out that flooding is one impact of rainfall, which is the source of the annual recharge of the lake and groundwater basins, and is inextricably tied to stormwater management. And one of the things that the county could do, that you guys could do, is update your floodplain management ordinance, which identifies the authorities, roles, and responsibilities of the Division of the county, it depends on whether it's a department or not at a given time, but Watershed Protection District and Department of Water Resources for floodplain management, because that is the actual top-down look at all of those portions of the process, of which flooding is one. That's just my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you. Johanna, do we have anyone else online? Guest, go ahead and unmute. You'll need to state your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes. Guest, do you still want to speak?
Oh, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes, state your
Hello?
name for the record.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair. Angela Amaral. Just to piggyback off of the issue with the flood section on flooding, and I agree that it needs to be more robust. We are seeing more and more flooding, and I think with more and more building going on and covering up permeable surface is going to create more runoff. So flooding, I think, is going to be a bigger issue going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. No more public comment. I'm going to bring it back to the board for any final comments. It looks like Supervisor Owen.
Okay. In the flooding aspects of it, erosion has been a big issue, and that directly affects people. As far as I know, that I have some issues with erosion in the Hidden Valley area where the levees are, and so that's something that we've got to address. But some of that is stemming from not cleaning out some of the waterways, and I know that that's something that we've looked at up north in EJ's district as well. And and I know it's difficult because of the requirements from Fish and Wildlife, and that has stopped some of the cleanouts, which is causing some of the erosion. So I don't know if that's something we can kind of add into here, is the looking at that as well to be able to protect some of the erosion issues.
Thank you. Supervisor Pyska.
I just want to thank you all for this hard work. I know this was another one of the grants that we worked on with the Risk Reduction Authority and brought in all the other jurisdictions so that we could really take a holistic look at the county as a region so that we can co-manage as a region with our other jurisdictions and other nations. So this is really great work, and I really appreciate how it's listed out the responsible agencies. The county is not carrying the full load on this. All of our partners are spreading this out so that we can all go, we can do the work that we need to do in the lanes that we need to do, where the momentum is, and look for funding. And that's the most important part, is that we've got this all in the plan, it's all written down, and it's going to be much easier for us to get that funding that we need to actually implement. So really great job on this. And I am happy to make the motion to, let's see, Mr. Chair, I move that, I'm going to offer the resolution.
Resolution's been offered.
All right, Supervisor Owen?
Aye.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye.
Supervisor Crandall?
Yes.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Rasmussen?
Aye.
Great.
Thank you for the presentation.
And thank you for all the work you did.
And we're going to go ahead and it is 11:42. We're going to call our 6.8 item, which is 10:45 item, 2026 governance workshop presentation from probation. I'm just going to mention we do have a hard stop at noon for an emergency check-in.
Thank you, Chair.
I will do my best to be very quick.
Thank you.
First, I'd like to thank the board and admin for allowing me to have this heard with a different time than the other departments, as I had had a previously scheduled appearance in 2 weeks. Got it?
Do you have an online presentation?
Yeah, hold on. Do you want to hear the other item?
You can go ahead and, or, I mean, how long do you think that'll take, Johanna?
That's
What was that?
I could talk about it without the presentation, or?
Are you talking about the 7-point item?
Yeah, the added addendum.
Okay, we can go ahead and pass this briefly, because I think 7.6, we're going to take up, shouldn't take more than a few minutes.
No,
That's an addendum for consideration of a letter to the board and state Community Corrections, BSCC, regarding proposed juvenile detention regulations. And go ahead.
Thank you. The Board of State and Community Corrections is the agency in charge of monitoring compliance with the law for juvenile detention centers in the state of California. And currently, they are considering changes to regulations Title 15 and Title 24, which could have a large impact on our ability to find places to house juveniles when they are arrested within the county. Currently, our main contract is with Mendocino County, but we do not have a dedicated bed space, and they do contract with other counties. The concern is the regulations are going to decrease the availability of space at all facilities in the state. And on January 26th and 27th, the Executive Steering Committee of BSCC is meeting to consider the regulations. And I'm requesting that the chair sign the letter that's attached to the agenda item opposing the regulations because of the impact they will have on the probation department.
Any questions from supervisors at this point? Supervisor Sabatier.
I'm trying to find where the second part was, but in the first sentence, just wondering if we can add a word. We are writing to, currently it says we are writing to express our concern, currently proposed regulation. Can we say we are writing to express our concern that currently proposed regulation revisions? It sounds like there's a missing word in there. And there was another one, but I can't. And the fact I'm just not finding, I'm gonna skip it. But there was another one, and what I'll do is it's not substantive. If I can find it, I'll pass it on to you. But I just wanted to provide that. I appreciate the conversation that we had. Chair Rasmussen and I met with Chief Monfrance and did reach out to CSAC. CSAC is on top of it, is trying to kind of balance what they can and can't get away with making changes on so that they can continue to have a healthy relationship. But they are hearing loud and clear that this is an imposition without a mandate that will just increase the potential funds needed from local communities to continue to do the work with our juvenile justice system. And if I can not quote you, but mention a comment you made, currently we're expending about $250,000. We may be looking at up to $400,000 maximum worst case scenario.
Or more.
If this passes and changes. So some of the things that are happening, I'm absolutely against. It makes no sense to me. And so happy to support this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further from the board? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and open it to the public. Is there anyone in the room? Not seeing any. Johanna, do we have any hands online? No hands. I'll bring it back to the board. We do have 2 recommended actions here, so I'd be ready for motions.
Mr. Chair, sorry about that. I didn't realize there was 2 actions. I'm trying to figure out if I move to approve the letter as proposed with the amendment that was suggested.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, that carries 5-0.
And I move to direct staff to appropriately include this in our legislative priorities for 2026.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries 5-0. Thank you, and we're going to go back to our 6.8.
Did you get it? There we go. Can I control it? Or you control it? Okay. Here, just, thanks. Okay. So in 2025, probation had many accomplishments. I'm just going to point out a couple of them for you. The implementation of the Child Abuse Prevention Plan has been something probation has been passionate about and working on strongly. One of the things that, one of the elements of the plan is increasing tribal engagement. And Kevin Lewis, Chief Deputy Probation Officer, has taken this under his wing and done a fantastic job in getting many tribal partners engaged in the plan. They've formed their own subcommittee, and they've chosen to implement positive Indian parenting throughout the county. There will be 9 individuals trained in facilitating that in the county. I think right now we have 3 trained and 2 are in training, and then by the end of June, 9 will be trained. Last week, we had a meet and greet at Big Valley for the first cohort to begin in the training, and the first workshop will be on February 5th at Big Valley. So we're really excited that this was a big element of the plan, and it's going forward, and positive Indian parenting is going to be offered to anyone in the county. And hopefully it's going to spark peer groups and support groups for parents of all ages throughout the community. Another big thing we've done is implementing AI in the department. We have started it with our pre-sentence investigation reports and the compilation of rap sheets. So it looks at the rap sheet, it does a synopsis of the rap sheet. Our officer then verifies the information is correct, and then that is included in our reports. And now it's to the point where it's helping write the static parts of the reports. It's taking the information from our databases and other databases and filling that in. When I started at probation 10 years ago, we had 7 to 10 people writing court reports. We're now down to 2. So the implementation of AI is one factor that has really helped probation officers get in the field and help people change and still fulfill the duty we have to the courts of preparing reports. And we now are using it fully with our juvenile disposition reports. So I will go on to the next slide, maybe. Oh, back one. Sorry. We'll get there. There we go. Okay. I'm not going to, the numbers speak for themselves. If you have a question about one of the numbers, I'm happy to discuss it. But for the most part, all of the numbers have increased except that number of the adult on probation supervision, but the numbers of parolee or people coming out on PRCS have increased, mandatory supervision, and juvenile numbers have increased dramatically over the last year. We had 2 new metrics this year. Prop 36, which is an unfunded thing that probation participates in. The number is 11, but keep in mind, we really didn't implement until about April, and so that's through June. So we had 11 people in that short period of time that came out on Prop 36. So I expect that number is going to be quite different next year by the time we get through it. And then we did have 172 people participate in our tattoo removal process this year, so we're pretty excited about that one. Okay, our points of emphasis this year, we are continuing our implementation of CalAIM. We have almost all of our staff trained. We have some technical assistant contracts in process to make sure we're following the mandates because we are not Medi-Cal billers and we're learning that whole process. We do have one individual currently who is our test case for making sure we're implementing correctly as we move forward. Back onto the AI, we have just entered into a contract to now have a program called Field Assist. So the field officers can use AI. It can record their interactions, create case notes, and then the officer then can modify the case notes. It can give them access to everything in the file that the individual has been doing from providers while they're on the spot in the field with individuals. So I think it's going to really make more effective contacts with individuals on probation. I think that, unless there's a question on one of those topics that are up there, no? Next year, we did receive a grant from the courts and judicial council related to Prop 63. Prop 63 was, part of it was the removal of guns off of the streets. And so we have to prepare reports to the court about if somebody was arrested with a gun or a gun is recovered. And so this will assist in those reports, enhance them, and also assist with recovering of firearms. So our plan is to collaborate with local police departments and the sheriff's department in recovering firearms that have not been returned. And then next year, we also plan on giving you a number of participants we've had in the positive parenting classes that are going forward. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Chief Monframs. We'll bring it back to the board. Supervisor Sabatier.
So I just, number one, thank you for the presentation. And also thinking about ahead the fact that you won't be available at the workshop, so bringing that to us. I think that's awesome. Thank you so much. I've seen you in action. I love seeing you and your staff, just your department as a whole. There seems to be such a culture in the department of we're here to help, not we're here to be authorities, even though you are as well. But it's just that the folks that I have engaged with from your department are absolutely on the positive end of the spectrum of what they do. Rather than on the other side. From the resilience reentry event that you helped put together in coordination with Woodland Community College, the amount of folks that go there, the amount of folks that benefit from going there, and 172, even though I know you had trouble getting the tattoo removal to show up, but they finally did, I think is a great start for some folks to kind of move away from the past, right? Yeah. And I think that there's a lot of good people who have gone through your system who are now the spokespeople outside of the system to say, hey, you can change. Hey, these things are helpful. Make sure that you approach that. And I know we're still working on the pit count, and I apologize, but I always appreciate that your team is wanting to be a part of it. And I know that unfortunately it comes with a little bit of conversations that are difficult to swallow, but here to support the things that you do, because I'm seeing it change people's lives. So thank you. And by the way, I would love to see another proclamation like you've done in the past, because listening to those firsthand stories of those that are impacted by your team is some of the most powerful stuff that I've seen here, because we all have community members that have struggled and had gone through incarceration, and hearing of their ability to come out of their slump and being able to really find ways through their lives that are positive is just something we love to hear. So hopefully you'll keep coming back with that.
My favorite day of the year.
Thank you. Any further question? Supervisor Crandall.
I wanted to highlight, the fact that you're doing the positive Indian parenting. That module's like $2,000 for like a 3-day training, and if you're bringing it to, it's $500 through $560. So it's a very expensive program, and the fact that you're doing it and people have the opportunity to go to it is really auspicious. So thank you for doing that. Yeah.
Supervisor Pyska.
Yes, and thank you for being part of the last cohort of Build. That was incredible, and it just shows how much we can really lift and reach people when we all collaborate.
Yeah, we have contracted, so we'll have one person in Build every cohort.
It is amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I echo all the comments that have been made. I think probation's doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you for being out there. And with that, I'll go ahead and open it up to the public. Do we have anyone in the room? Not seeing any. Johanna, anybody online? No hands online. I'll bring it back to the board. There is no recommended action. It's a presentation only. So we'll go ahead and close, or I'm sorry, Supervisor Sabatier.
Two things. You mentioned PRCS is increasing. Is there a specific reason at this point? Are we looking at more prison closures? And so it's, again, a dropping down of the prisoner inmate population to the creating more jail or whatever the case might be. Is there a reason why that's happening, or it just happens that there might have been a cohort of inmates that now ended and are
No, I
going
think the definition of parole and PRCS has changed some as the laws keep changing, and we're seeing dramatically parole numbers are decreasing every year. I think I saw in the governor's budget in 2 years they expected to go down another 2,000, and keep going down. But PRCS do keep going up, and I do think it's just a shifting of responsibility for a type of crime. I don't believe it has to do with the prison closures.
Okay. And then just my last comment. Thank you for the giving people second chances.
Of course.
All right, and it is just seconds before noon, so I'm going to go ahead and go into lunch recess. We'll come back at 1 o'clock. Expect to be on track with starting our 6.9 at that point. Thank you.
Thank you.